Wake up, sons of Africa. The time for silence has passed. The time for sleep is over. For too long we have wandered in the fog of forgetfulness, burdened by the chains of a past that was written for us, not by us. Our feet, strong as they are, have stumbled over the broken stones of stolen stories, our eyes dimmed by the dust of lost pride. Do you not hear the earth calling your name? She weeps with the blood of our ancestors, spilled not just by foreign hands, but by our own neglect. We are the children of kings and queens, of warriors and thinkers, of poets whose words moved mountains, and yet we've become ghosts in our own land, chasing shadows of other men's dreams. Look around you, look at the land, rich, abundant, waiting. Look at the people, young, brilliant, searching, but what do we give them? A legacy of pain, confusion, and imitation. We dress in borrowed identities. We speak in foreign tongues, not because we must, but because we've forgotten our own. We pray to gods we do not know. We hunger for validation from those who never saw us as equals. Sons of Africa, when did we stop believing in ourselves? When did we trade our fire for fear? We are the lost generation, not because we are unworthy, but because we have been made to forget who we are. We've been taught to hate our own reflection, to mistrust our own brother, to measure our worth by a standard that was never made for us. But no more. It is time to rise, not in anger, but in purpose. Wake up and remember. Remember the soil that cradled you. Remember the names of those who dared to dream of freedom. Remember the music that beat from the drums before the guns ever came. You are not lost. You are waiting to be found, waiting to awaken. Our mothers cry in the markets. Our fathers are weary from carrying burdens they were never meant to bear alone. And yet, still they hope. Still they pray that their children will reclaim what was stolen. Not gold, not land, but dignity, unity, and truth. So I speak to you now, not as a stranger, but as your brother. Wake up, sons of Africa. Lift your heads, clear your eyes. We are not finished. We are not forgotten. We are not defeated. We are the seeds of greatness buried deep, and now it is time to grow. Let the winds carry our voices again. Let the world remember our name, not as victims, not as statistics, but as the generation that remembered who we are. For far too long, many of us have wandered through life disconnected from the essence of who we are. Our heritage, once the very foundation upon which we stood, has become a distant memory, and we've allowed ourselves to be swept away by the currents of foreign influence. We have lost sight of our own reflections in the mirror, instead choosing to admire someone else's face. In our quest for progress, we have adopted identities that do not belong to us. We've embraced cultures that are not ours to wear, and in doing so, we have cast aside the richness of our own roots. Look at the language we speak, the music we listen to, the names we give our children. We fill our minds with foreign words, forgetting that our ancestors spoke in tongues that carried the weight of history, wisdom, and strength. We dance to beats that echo across oceans, but fail to recognize the rhythms of our own drums, the pulse of our motherland calling us home. We have allowed colonial legacies to strip away the very essence of who we are, and in their place, we've built walls between ourselves and the culture that once defined us. But this is not just about language or customs. This is about pride, the pride that comes from knowing who you are, where you come from, and what your ancestors fought for, the pride that is rooted in the land beneath your feet, the soil that nourished your forefathers and continues to nourish you. How did we lose this? How did we come to a point where we are ashamed of our own heritage, where we look down upon our own people, where we forget the beauty in the way we speak, the way we live, and the way we love? It is heartbreaking to witness the young generation, our generation, rejecting the beauty of their own identity in favor of something foreign. We have been taught to believe that our ways are backward, our customs outdated, our language is primitive, We have been made to feel inferior in our own skin, as though we are not worthy of our own culture. This internalized shame has torn us apart, forcing us to seek validation from those who never saw us as equals in the first place. The impact of this loss of identity is felt deeply. It is seen in the way we carry ourselves, the way we relate to one another, and the way we approach the future. Without a firm foundation in our heritage, we drift aimlessly, unsure of where we are headed or who we are meant to be. We are caught in a constant state of confusion, trying to fit into a world that was never made for us, while neglecting the world that was always ours. But we cannot continue like this. We cannot keep walking in the shadows of others, pretending that our history has no value. We must wake up. We must remember that our culture is not something to be ashamed of, but something to be celebrated, something to be proud of. We must look to the past not as a burden, but as a source of strength, inspiration, and guidance. Our heritage is not a thing of the past. It is a living, breathing force that continues to shape who we are. It is time to rise and honor it, to restore the pride that has been stolen from us, and to walk boldly into the future with the strength of our ancestors in our hearts. In the heart of Africa lies a history so rich, so full of greatness, that it is almost incomprehensible to the untrained eye. Yet, we, sons and daughters of this beautiful continent, have allowed the brilliance of our past to fade into the shadows, covered by the veil of colonial exploitation and modern distraction. We have forgotten the kings and queens who once ruled empires larger than many nations today, the scholars whose knowledge traversed continents, and the warriors whose bravery shook the world. This history is not one of defeat, but one of resilience, intellect, and unparalleled achievements. The time has come to remember who we were, so we can understand who we are meant to be. Africa was never a land of savagery or backwardness, as some have tried to make us believe. From the ancient kingdoms of Egypt to the thriving empires of Mali, Ghana, and Songhai, our ancestors were the architects of civilization. They built monumental cities, established centers of learning, and were pioneers in fields like mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. The pyramids of Egypt, the libraries of Timbuktu, and the great trade routes that connected Africa to the rest of the world stand as testaments to the intellectual and cultural brilliance that existed long before colonialism ever arrived on our shores. But beyond the tangible achievements, there was a spirit of unity and pride that united African people across regions and tribes. It was a spirit that did not see borders where the colonialists drew lines, but saw a vast and interconnected continent full of potential. Our ancestors did not bow to foreign invaders. They resisted with fierce determination, often at great cost. The history of Africa is a history of resistance, not just in the face of oppression, but in the face of the overwhelming forces of time, space, and circumstance. And yet, in spite of the colonizers' best efforts, Africa stood tall. In all this, however, we must not forget that our history is not just about power, wealth, and glory. It is also about the lessons of struggle, sacrifice, and survival. Our forebears fought against invaders who sought to destroy them, not only physically, but spiritually and culturally. They resisted the forces that sought to erase their names from history, to deny them their place in the world. But through all the hardships, they survived. They passed down stories, traditions, and wisdom that have shaped the very essence of who we are. This legacy cannot be forgotten. And yet we find ourselves in a world where this legacy is not taught in our schools, not shared in our homes, and not celebrated in our daily lives. We have been taught to think of ourselves as inferior, to view our history through the lens of those who colonized and enslaved us. We've been told that we are descendants of a lost civilization, that Africa's greatness was a fleeting moment in time, destined to fade. But this narrative is a lie. The greatness of Africa is not a thing of the past. It is a part of us, embedded in our DNA, waiting to be rediscovered. The youth of today must awaken to the truth of their heritage. They must learn to see themselves not as the products of colonization, but as the inheritors of a rich, proud, and powerful legacy. They must embrace the knowledge and strength of their ancestors and draw inspiration from their accomplishments, their resilience, and their unwavering sense of self. The greatness of Africa is not something to be ashamed of, it is something to be proud of, something to carry with us into the future. When we look back at our past, we should not see a history of defeat, but one of remarkable triumph. We are the descendants of kings and queens, scholars and warriors, visionaries and healers. It is time to remember that greatness, to stand tall with the knowledge that we come from a long line of people who were never meant to be conquered. We must carry this legacy forward, not as a burden, but as the gift it is, a gift of strength, intelligence, and resistance. We are not the forgotten children of history. We are the heirs to a great untold legacy, and it is time for the world to hear our story. The pain of the current generation runs deep, a silent anguish that many carry but few express. This generation, despite being brimming with potential, stands at the crossroads of confusion and lost purpose. It is not that we are unworthy of greatness, but that we have been misled, misdirected, and disconnected from the roots that once gave us direction, meaning, and identity. There is an emotional and spiritual crisis that grips us, a crisis that has left us adrift in a sea of false promises and empty pursuits, struggling to find solid ground, unsure of where we belong or where we are headed. We have been taught to view ourselves through a lens that does not reflect our true image. Our minds and hearts have been conditioned by external forces, by the pressures of globalization, by media that distorts our understanding of self, and by a history of colonial subjugation that left deep scars on our collective psyche. The narratives we've been fed tell us that we must look outward for answers, that our true worth lies in adopting foreign ideals and abandoning the wisdom passed down through generations. We've been convinced that to be modern, we must sever ties with our traditions, our culture, and our history. But in doing so, we've lost something irreplaceable. This loss is not just about the abandonment of customs or the adoption of foreign ways of life. It is about the deeper disconnection from the very essence of who we are. Our sense of identity, once rooted in the strength of our ancestors, is now fractured. We look to others for validation, seeking approval from a world that sees us as lesser. We have internalized the belief that our heritage is inferior, that our cultures are backward, that our languages are obsolete, and in doing so, we've forgotten the strength that once flowed from those very roots. The consequence of this disconnection is felt in every aspect of our lives. We are a generation of people searching for purpose in all the wrong places, chasing material success and empty status symbols, believing that these will bring us happiness, fulfillment, and a sense of belonging. But the more we accumulate, the emptier we feel. There is a constant longing, an ache in our hearts that we can't quite place. We are surrounded by distractions, yet still we feel lost, yearning for something we can't define. And perhaps that something is the wisdom of our ancestors, the pride of our culture, and the unity of a people who knew their worth without needing validation from the outside world. Emotionally, we are fragmented. We are disconnected not only from our roots, but from each other. The sense of community, once the backbone of African society, is eroding. We are divided by tribalism, by class, by nationality, and this division weakens us. We no longer see each other as brothers and sisters bound by a shared history, but as competitors in a race to succeed in a world that doesn't value us. The unity that once defined us has been replaced by individualism and alienation. Spiritually, we are in turmoil. Our beliefs and practices, once steeped in ancient wisdom and deep connection to the land and our ancestors, have been shaken. We've been taught to abandon our traditional beliefs in favor of foreign religions and ideologies that often fail to speak to the core of who we are. The rituals, songs, and prayers that once connected us to the divine now seem foreign or irrelevant. We are spiritually adrift, unsure of where to turn for guidance or solace. Yet despite all of this, there is hope. The crisis we face is not one of innate weakness or worthlessness. It is the result of a long history of disempowerment and disconnection. And as such, it is within our power to reconnect, to heal, and to reclaim our place in the world. We must learn to look inward once again, to find strength in the history that shaped us and in the values that have been passed down through generations. We must seek unity with one another, knowing that the bond we share as Africans is stronger than any external force that seeks to divide us. And we must reclaim our spiritual roots, embracing the beliefs that once connected us to the earth and to each other. We are not lost because we are inherently flawed. We are lost because we have been led astray. But the way back is not far. It lies within us, in the stories of our ancestors, in the land that gave birth to us, and in the strength of our people. It is time to awaken from the confusion and reclaim the path that was always ours to walk. There comes a time in every nation's history when the weight of silence becomes unbearable, when the call for change echoes so loudly that it can no longer be ignored. For Africa, that time is now. We stand at a precipice, looking into a future shaped by the past, a past that has stolen much from us, leaving scars of division, loss, and disillusionment. Colonialism, with its deep and destructive roots, stripped away our dignity, unity, and sense of self-worth. It told us that we were inferior, that our ways of living, our cultures, and our traditions were nothing but remnants of a bygone era. This lie took hold, and we have lived with its consequences for generations. But the time for living in the shadow of this false narrative is over. It is time to reawaken, to reclaim what was taken from us and restore what we have lost. The first step in this awakening is to reconnect with our spiritual and cultural roots. For far too long, we have been taught that our traditional beliefs, our ways of life, and our spiritual practices are backward or primitive. We have been told that the only path to enlightenment lies in foreign religions and ideologies, while our indigenous wisdom has been dismissed as irrelevant. But the truth is, our ancestors were not ignorant or misguided. They were deeply connected to the earth, to the cosmos, and to one another. Their spirituality was not a mere superstition, but a profound understanding of the interconnectedness of all things, a wisdom that has been passed down for generations. To reclaim our dignity, we must return to the teachings of those who walked this land before us. We must embrace the values that have stood the test of time, values of respect, unity, community, and harmony with nature. These are not outdated relics. They are the foundation of a strong, proud, and resilient people. When we turn away from these teachings, we turn away from the very essence of who we are. We must reawaken to the spiritual truths that bind us to the land and to each other. The gods and ancestors who once guided us are not gone. They are within us, waiting to be called upon once again. Culturally, we must also reclaim our identity. The cultural richness of Africa is vast, spanning from the deserts of the Sahara to the forests of the Congo, from the coasts of West Africa to the highlands of East Africa. Our music, dance, art, and language are expressions of who we are. Yet many of us have abandoned these in favor of Western norm. We dress in clothes that do not reflect our heritage, speak languages that were not born on this soil, and emulate lifestyles that are foreign to our history. This is not progress, it is self-erasure. Our cultures are not things of the past, they are living, breathing entities that have the power to inspire, uplift, and guide us in the present. By reconnecting with our cultural roots, we reclaim our sense of self and our pride in who we are. But the spiritual and cultural awakening must also lead to a deeper realization of our unity. Africa, despite its vastness and diversity, is one continent, one people. The forces of colonialism sought to divide us, to pit tribe against tribe, nation against nation, but these divisions are artificial. They were created to weaken us, to keep us fractured and vulnerable. We must cast aside the illusions of division and realize that our strength lies in our unity. Our ancestors did not see borders. They saw a shared destiny, a shared vision for the future. It is time for us to reclaim that vision. Reclaiming unity means standing together in the face of adversity, whether that be poverty, corruption, or foreign exploitation. It means recognizing that our collective strength is far greater than the sum of our individual struggles. It means understanding that our freedom, our success, and our dignity are bound together, and that only through unity can we achieve true liberation. This awakening is not just about spiritual and cultural restoration, it is about reclaiming our self-worth. Colonialism tried to convince us that we were inferior, that our worth was determined by the standards of those who sought to oppress us. But no longer. We are not defined by the measures set by others. We are defined by the richness of our history, the strength of our people, and the brilliance of our potential. It is time to look inward, to recognize our own worth, and to demand the respect that we have always deserved. The call to reawaken is not a gentle whisper. It is a cry that rises from the depths of our collective soul. It is the voice of our ancestors, urging us to stand tall, to claim what was once ours, and to move forward with purpose and pride. We cannot continue to live in the shadows of those who sought to subjugate us. We must step into the light, reclaim our dignity, our unity, and our self-worth, and build a future that reflects the greatness of our past and the promise of our potential. The time to awaken is now. The weight of history is carried not just by the pages of books or the monuments built by our ancestors, but by the shoulders of the elders who have lived through the trials of time. Their faces are lined with the stories of struggle, sacrifice, and resilience, yet there is a quiet strength in their eyes, a strength forged in the furnace of hardships that we, the younger generation, can barely comprehend. These elders have witnessed the horrors of colonization, the dismantling of their cultures, and the erosion of the values they once held dear. They have seen the promise of independence fade into the reality of division, corruption, and stagnation. Yet in the silence of their suffering, they still hold on to a flicker of hope, a hope that their children, the sons and daughters of this land, will rise and restore what was lost. The struggles of the older generation are not often celebrated in our modern narratives. We rarely hear their voices or acknowledge the depth of their sacrifices. Many of them fought for freedom, for dignity, for the very survival of their cultures in a world that sought to erase them. They were the ones who stood on the front lines, whether through armed resistance, intellectual defiance, or cultural preservation, against the forces of colonization and exploitation. They lost friends, families, and loved ones, yet they never gave up on the dream of a free, united Africa. But when that dream was realized, they were left to witness its slow unraveling. They saw their children and grandchildren born into freedom slowly disconnecting from the very legacy that was fought for so fiercely, and though they bore the scars of struggle, they kept their hope alive, believing that the future would bring a better tomorrow. The elders' pain is not just in the loss of physical battles, but in the erosion of their sense of identity. Many lived through times when their languages were banned, their customs vilified, and their rights stripped away. Their very existence was a defiance to the forces that sought to silence them. They endured years of hardship and injustice, yet their greatest sorrow is not the battles they fought, but the state of the world they leave behind. They see their children growing up in a society that often ignores the lessons of the past, where the values of community, respect, and unity seem to be fading. The modern world, with its rush for individual success and external validation, has left little room for the deep, communal understanding that defined the Africa of their youth. Yet, amid the scars of their struggles, there is an enduring hope, a belief that the younger generation can rise above the mistakes of the past and reclaim the greatness that has been lost. They hope that we, their children, will rediscover the strength that lies in our unity, that we will reconnect with our cultural roots and build a future that is truly ours. They yearn for a time when Africa is not seen as a land of poverty and conflict, but as a continent of prosperity, creativity, and peace. They want to see us lift our heads high with pride, knowing that we are the heirs of a great legacy, not of victims, but of survivors and conquerors. This hope is not naive. It is born from a deep understanding of what is at stake. The elders know the value of culture, of tradition, of community. they lived it. And while they may not always express it openly, their hopes are clear. They want to see the younger generation not merely survive, but thrive. They want to see us stand on their shoulders and look ahead to a future where the mistakes of the past are not repeated, but where we forge a path that honors the struggles and sacrifices they made. They long to see us reclaim our dignity, our unity, and our self-worth, knowing that by doing so, we honor their legacy and the legacy of those who fought before them. It is a call to us, the children of Africa, to recognize the immense responsibility that lies upon our shoulders. The older generation has borne the burden of struggle, and now it is our turn to carry the mantle of hope. We owe it to them, to ourselves, and to the future generations to rise above the confusion and division that has plagued us for far too long. The elders' silent suffering is a reminder that the work of freedom, unity, and cultural restoration is never truly finished. It is passed down, generation to generation, like a sacred torch. We must take that torch and carry it forward, igniting a flame of hope and change that will light the way for those who come after us. The dreams of our elders are not gone, they are waiting for us to make them real. The time has come to stop seeing ourselves as victims of history, as casualties of a past that was written for us. We are no longer bound by the chains of colonial oppression or the wounds of exploitation. The power to shape our future rests in our hands, and it is up to us, this generation, to rise and take control of the destiny that was once stolen from us. The future of Africa is not something that happens to us, it is something we must create. We are not helpless, we are capable of transformation. We are not waiting for someone else to fix our problems. We are the ones who must step up and rebuild, stronger and prouder than ever before. For too long, we have been led to believe that we are powerless in the face of global forces, that we are small players in a world dominated by wealthier, more powerful nations. But the truth is that Africa holds within it an extraordinary wealth, not just of natural resources, but of human potential. We are a continent of young people, of innovators, thinkers, and creators. Our youth are not a liability, they are an asset. We are the largest and fastest growing population in the world, and this is a source of incredible power. The creativity, energy, and determination of Africa's youth can drive change, can spark revolutions, and can build a future that is not dictated by others, but crafted by our own hands. Empowerment begins with understanding that we have the ability to define our own identity, to shape our own path. We no longer have to conform to the standards set by foreign powers, nor should we continue to chase after ideals that were never meant for us. Our strength lies in our ability to embrace who we are. Proud, resilient, and resourceful. It lies in rediscovering the knowledge that our ancestors passed down through generations, and in recognizing that we are the heirs to a great and untold legacy. The wisdom, the innovation, and the strength that built this continent before are still within us. They are not gone, they are simply waiting to be awakened. It is time to reject the narrative that Africa is a continent doomed to struggle. Our challenges are not insurmountable. They are opportunities waiting to be seized. Our struggles with poverty, corruption, and inequality do not define us. They are the hurdles that we must overcome, and we have the power to do so. We do not need to wait for the world to offer us solutions, for the answers are within us. We must empower ourselves through education, through unity, and through innovation. Africa has always been a land of ingenuity, from the ancient kingdoms to the vibrant cities of today. We must harness that spirit of creativity and entrepreneurialism to build a new, sustainable Africa, one that thrives on its own terms. This is not just about economic empowerment, though that is a crucial part of the equation. It is about social empowerment, political empowerment, and cultural empowerment. It is about creating communities where people are not just surviving but flourishing. It is about empowering our women, who have long been the backbone of African society, to take their rightful place as leaders, innovators, and change makers. It is about empowering our youth to step into positions of influence, to challenge the status quo, and to create the kind of world they want to live in. It is about empowering every African, no matter their background, to recognize their worth and their potential, and to step into the fullness of who they are meant to be. The call to action is clear. We must rise and take charge of our future. This is not a time for complacency or despair, but for bold action, for taking risks, and for having the courage to fail and try again. The challenges are great, but the potential is greater. Our continent is rich in resources, in talent, and in spirit. We have the power to transform not just Africa, but the world. The world is watching us, and it is time to show them what we are capable of. No longer will we be seen as passive recipients of aid or charity. We will be seen as active builders of our future, as creators of wealth, knowledge, and opportunity. The time to act is now. This generation has the tools, the skills, and the vision to shape Africa's future in a way that reflects the true greatness of our past and the limitless potential of our future. It is time to step up, to work together, and to create an Africa that is not defined by its struggles, but by its triumphs. This is our time to rise, to transform, and to lead, not as victims, but as the proud builders of a new, prosperous Africa.